You know, when a kid asks you a question right at bedtime, there is this almost universal expectation that it's a stall tactic.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Right, like you're standing there in the doorway, the hallway light is cutting across the floor, the room is dim, and they just hit you with, "Can I have another glass of water?" Or, uh, "Do penguins have knees?"
Yeah, you recognize the game instantly. You dispense a really quick logistical answer, and you just try to make your exit as fast as possible.
Exactly, you're completely braced for a negotiation.
You are. I mean, you're calculating how to deny, like, a fourth reading of a picture book without causing a total meltdown. Your brain is operating purely in management mode.
But every now and then, you step into their room and that whole management routine just shatters. They look up at you from the pillow, staring at the ceiling, and they pitch a philosophical fastball that just stops you dead in your tracks.
Those are the moments, right, when they suddenly become these little philosophers.
Yeah, and today we are diving into a fascinating set of source materials built specifically for those exact moments.
I was really looking forward to this one.
Same here. We're looking at a guide created for a YouTube channel called My Child's Neverending Questions. And the entire mission of this project is it's so beautiful. It's designed to give parents gentle, smart, cinematic, nighttime before bed answers to those massive, unexpected questions kids throw at them when the lights go down.
The premise of the channel is just incredibly empathetic, I think. It acknowledges that when a parent is exhausted at, 8:30 p.m., they really don't have the bandwidth to synthesize an encyclopedia entry.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You're barely keeping your own eyes open.
Right. So they need a bridge. They need something to connect with their child, something that honors the weight of the question without turning the bedroom into, like, a lecture hall.
Exactly. And today's specific focus is one of the most deceptively simple questions a child can possibly ask, and it usually happens in the dark. The question is, why do I have a name? Okay, let's unpack this, because this isn't just about giving parents a script to read, is it?
No, it's so much deeper than that.
What we're really exploring today is the beautiful, intricate psychology behind how a developing brain actually processes its own existence.
Treating this question as a developmental milestone, rather than just, a request for trivia, completely changes the paradigm.
It really does.
Think about it. A name is a child's very first piece of intellectual property. To them, it is one of the few things in the entire universe that is exclusively theirs, yet it was handed to them by someone else.
Wow, yeah. That's a huge paradox when you think about it.
It is. That is a highly complex dynamic for a developing brain to subconsciously navigate.
So let's look at what the child is actually asking when they pose this question.
Yeah,
Because it's really about the literal mechanics of language, right?
exactly. They don't care about etymology.
Right, think about it like this. If a kid asks, why do we have a house? They aren't looking for architectural blueprints.
No, definitely not.
They aren't asking about zoning laws or mortgage rates or drywall installation. They're really asking, am I safe here? Do I belong to this place? And does this place belong to me?
That analogy cuts right to the psychological core. The source material establishes this immediately in its opening hook. When a child asks about their name, they are asking about belonging.
They're doing an emotional temperature check.
Yes, they are testing the structural integrity of their place in your life. And what the guide does brilliantly is offer an immediate reassurance to the parent. It says, you do not need historical accuracy here.
Thank goodness, right.
Right. A warm conversation outranks a perfect explanation every time. The child is measuring your emotional availability, looking to see if you are genuinely happy that they exist in your space.
That makes total sense for the underlying emotion. But the reality is, a 3-year-old processes the world vastly differently than a 9-year-old.
Oh, completely. Worlds apart.
What provides a sense of belonging to a toddler might just completely alienate a preteen.
This raises an important question, though. How do you actively tailor that conversation so it lands perfectly within the child's current cognitive architecture?
Because if you miss the mark,
Yeah, if you mismatch the explanation to the developmental stage, the answer just becomes white noise to them.
So the guide actually breaks this down chronologically, which I found fascinating. We start at age 3, the toddler years.
Okay. The toddler phase.
Right. The source shares the exact suggested response for a 3-year-old, designed to be spoken slowly and softly. It goes, a name is a special word people use to know it's you. We gave you your name because we were so happy you were here, and we wanted a beautiful way to call you.
Notice the complete absence of history or complex mechanics in that phrasing. It's
No.
so stripped down.
Well, let me jump in and push back on that for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Because as a parent or an aunt or a grandparent, isn't it incredibly tempting to immediately launch into the grand historical meaning of a family name?
Oh, totally. It's a trap we all fall into.
Right. When a kid asks, why do I have a name?
Yeah.
Your adult brain goes, my time to shine. You want to say, well, you are named after your great-grandfather who crossed the ocean with nothing but a suitcase and a dream.
The cinematic backstory.
Exactly. So why is the guide effectively telling us to hide that legacy from a 3-year-old?
To understand why the guide shuts that impulse down, we have to look at the cognitive reality of a 3-year-old. At this age, children are in a state of profound egocentrism.
Meaning they think the world revolves around them.
In a way, yes. In developmental psychology, that doesn't mean they are selfish. It means they physically lack what we call theory of mind.
Theory of mind, okay?
Right? So they cannot yet conceive that other people have thoughts, histories, or perspectives separate from their own immediate experience.
Yeah.
Their universe is just a localized bubble consisting only of what they can see, touch, and feel right now.
So telling them about a great-grandfather crossing an ocean is essentially speaking a foreign language. I mean, they don't even know what an ocean is, let alone the abstract concept of ancestry or lineage.
Precisely. If you introduce these massive abstract ideas like geographic migration or the concept of honoring the dead, you aren't answering their question.
You're just confusing them.
You are just overwhelming their prefrontal cortex. The guide's suggested answer works because it connects the name strictly to love and recognition.
We were so happy you were here.
Yes. By saying that, you're taking their identity and fusing it directly to the joy of their present existence. You are laying down the absolute baseline code for psychological security.
It's brilliant in its simplicity. You're basically saying, your name is the sound of our love for you.
That is a beautiful way to put it.
And that satisfies the immediate emotional temperature check the toddler is doing. But, you know, that localized bubble eventually bursts.
It has to.
They go to preschool, they go to kindergarten, they meet other kids, and suddenly they realize the world is much bigger than their living room.
The transition out of that egocentric phase is one of the most dramatic shifts in human development.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the guide moves us chronologically to age 6.
Ah, the detectives.
Right. It notes that 6-year-olds are suddenly obsessed with how things work. They appreciate that objects have purposes, and they are just starting to grasp the concept of time.
They want the mechanics of everything.
And the suggested answer for a 6-year-old introduces a concept that honestly must be a complete mind-bender for a kid. The idea of time before the child even existed.
That is the onset of temporal awareness. It's huge.
The guide suggests telling them everyone has a name so people know who they're talking to. Before you were born, we thought about what to call you.
Just that phrase alone is powerful.
Yeah, it goes on. Some families choose names because they sound beautiful, remind them of someone they love, or have a special meaning. Your name became part of your story.
The phrase, before you were born, we thought about what to call you, is really the fulcrum of that entire response.
How so?
Well, for a 6-year-old, realizing that the universe and their parents had a whole timeline running before their memory kicked in is a cognitive shock.
I can imagine. It's like finding out there's a prequel to your own life.
Exactly. The 6-year-old brain is essentially a little detective agency mapping out cause and effect.
So telling them they were thought about before they arrived proves that they were anticipated. It proves they aren't just, a random occurrence. They are the result of a deliberate plan.
Yes, and that gives you the psychological green light to finally introduce that family history.
Ah, so this is when you bring up the great-grandfather.
This is the exact developmental window where you can talk about the great-grandfather who crossed the ocean.
Yeah.
Or you can explain the linguistic roots of their name, like how it means bravery in another language.
You're expanding their world.
You are taking their identity, which at age 3 was just a feeling of being loved, and you are building a bridge to the wider family unit.
And it satisfies that 6-year-old demand for mechanics. They learn that their name isn't just a random label slapped on them at the hospital.
Right, it's not arbitrary.
It's a deliberate choice with a backstory. Handing them that history makes them feel tethered to something larger than themselves.
They're desperately looking for context at that age. By saying your name became part of your story, you are giving them the origin issue of their own comic book.
I love that analogy.
You are validating that they are part of a continuous narrative.
But kids don't want to just read the comic book forever, right? Eventually, they want to draw the panels themselves.
Oh, for sure.
Which brings us to the next massive developmental leap in the guide age 9, the preteen years.
This is where the landscape shifts from being family-centric to intensely peer-centric.
It's all about their friends now. And the source material outlines how the concept of a name has to evolve here. It goes from something the child receives to something the child owns.
Ownership is key here.
The suggested answer for a 9-year-old acknowledges the history, but then it completely pivots. It says, a name helps people recognize us, but it can also carry memories, hopes, traditions, but the person you become matters even more. You help give your name its meaning every day.
That addition is a profound transfer of agency.
Tell the listener what that means, like
Uh,
in practice. It's like being handed an empty backpack on your first day of school, right?
yes, that's a perfect way to look at it.
The parents picked out the backpack, the name, but the child is the one who fills it with their friendships, their kindness, and their actions.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, giving them that agency is crucial.
But wait, I have to challenge this because, well, let's be real about middle school.
Oh, middle school is rough.
Right. What if a 9-year-old is asking, why do I have this name? Because they are getting relentlessly bullied for it.
That happens a lot.
Or what if they are a junior, named after a father who is no longer in the picture? If a kid hates their name because it carries heavy, negative social or familial baggage, doesn't telling them you give it meaning sound like a massive parental cop-out? Like you're dismissing their pain. Yeah. It feels like saying, hey, we gave you this problem, now you figure it out.
That is a phenomenal pushback, and it strikes at the exact reason the guide phrases it this way. At 9 years old, a child is going through a psychological process called individuation.
Individuation, okay.
They are constantly scanning social hierarchies, comparing themselves to their peers, and intensely trying to figure out who they are separate from their parents.
So they're pulling away?
Yes. So if they are being bullied, or if the name carries heavy baggage, doubling down on the family legacy, like saying, you must love this name because it was your grandfather's, actually traps the child.
Oh, I see. It suffocates them.
It makes the name a prison rather than a gift, exactly the opposite of what you want.
So giving them agency relieves that pressure.
Yes. When the guide suggests saying, the person you become matters even more, you help give your name its meaning, it is actively detaching the child's core worth from the assigned label. It tells the child that the name is not a fixed destiny.
Let me try a metaphor here to see if I am grasping the mechanics of this. It sounds almost like a computer operating system.
Okay, let's hear it.
At age 3, the parent is just making sure the hardware power is on establishing that baseline security and love.
Yep, turning on the machine.
Then, at age 6, the parent connects the computer to the network, showing the child where they sit in the family history.
Right.
But at age 9, the parent has to hand over the administrator rights. The parent says, I installed the base software, but you are the one who gets to write the code from here on out.
That perfectly captures the mechanism of individuation. You are telling the 9-year-old that they have root access to their own character.
Wow, that's empowering.
The guide specifically notes that parents should invite older kids to ask questions about this, to express frustration or even debate their name.
You want them to wrestle with it a bit.
You want them to explore it,
Yeah.
but you constantly reinforce that their daily actions outrank the letters on their birth certificate.
It gives them an out. It says, the name is just the starting line. You run the race.
And that transition from finding security solely in how your parents view you to finding security in your own agency is really the ultimate goal of parenting.
No, up until this point, we've been breaking down the intellectual mechanics of what to say. We've looked at the words.
The scripts. Yeah.
But I want to pivot to how those words are delivered, because the most fascinating part of this source material isn't just the script. It's the strict production guidelines that the YouTube channel uses behind the scenes.
The methodology is engineered just as carefully as the psychological messaging.
It really is. The guide reveals these very specific instructions for creating these cinematic bedtime answers. First off, they mandate a target duration of about 4 to 7 minutes.
Very specific window.
They require the use of subtle, peaceful background music. And the rules for the speaker's voice are incredibly rigid.
How so?
You must use a warm, calm, emotionally reassuring tone. You speak slowly. You insert deliberate, gentle pauses after important sentences.
Pacing is everything.
Yeah, and they explicitly say, do not use medical or academic jargon, avoid sounding theatrical or overly sad, and above all, never shame, frighten, or dismiss the child.
They're essentially providing a blueprint for hacking a child's nervous system.
So what does this all mean? Why is this specific, highly regulated, calming delivery treated as equally important to the developmental psychology we just discussed?
This brings us to the underlying physiological reality of parenting. In gentle parenting circles, this is often discussed as co-regulation.
Co-regulation. Tell me more about that.
When a child asks a massive existential question at bedtime, their nervous system is often activated. Their brain is spinning.
Right, they're lying there in the dark and their gears are just turning.
Exactly. And children, especially young ones, do not have the biological tools to regulate their own nervous systems efficiently. They literally have to borrow their parents' nervous system to calm down.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a buzzword. There is a real biological mechanism at play.
A very real one, driven by mirror neurons and the autonomic nervous system.
That's incredible.
When a parent slows their vocal cadence, drops the pitch of their voice, and inserts gentle pauses, they are signaling physical safety to the child's brain.
Like, we are safe. There are no predators here.
Exactly. The child's heart rate will actually begin to sync with the parent's calm energy. The rest and digest system takes over from the fight or flight system.
The medium truly is the message here, then.
The source makes a profound point in its gentle parenting reassurance section. It notes that children rarely expect a perfect thesis.
I'm not looking for a dissertation.
No. When they ask, "Why do I have a name?"
Mm-hmm.
they are often simply asking for your focused presence. They want to sit in your calm energy.
As adults, we put so much pressure on ourselves to have a flawless TED Talk ready at a moment's notice.
We do. We panic.
Imagine the user the channel is targeting. It's a parent. They are exhausted. They are typing, explaining names to children into YouTube while practically hyperventilating.
They're looking for a lifeline.
Yeah.
And the guide's production rules ensure that the parent doesn't just get a script, they get an audio template for peace.
That's a great way to describe it.
The shared warmth of that conversation, the feeling of sitting on the edge of the bed with the lights low, that physiological memory is going to outlast the exact vocabulary you use.
So they might forget the words, but they'll remember how they felt.
100%. A child might not remember that you said a name is a special word,
Yeah.
but their body will absolutely remember that when they brought a massive, scary question to you, you met them with complete safety.
You created a sanctuary for their curiosity.
Exactly.
And that explains why the pacing and the music are so heavily regulated in the guide. The channel is actually trying to regulate the parent's nervous system first, so the parent can then regulate the child's nervous system.
It's a domino effect of calm. And what's fascinating here is, well, how the source material beautifully ties all these biological and psychological threads together in its closing thoughts.
How does it wrap it up?
It frames a name, not just as a label, but as the very first gift we receive in this world.
The very first gift. I love that.
Long before we have any cognitive ability to understand what language is, let alone what a specific name means, it becomes the acoustic signature of our existence.
It's the sound of us.
Yes. It welcomes us into conversations we can't understand yet. It welcomes us into friendships on the playground and into the fabric of the family unit.
And then, as the source so beautifully puts it, we start adding our own stuff to it.
Right. Over time, we take that initial gift and we fill it with our own laughter, our own courage, our kindness, and our mistakes, making it uniquely and undeniably our own.
It's a framework that starts empty and gets built up over a lifetime. It really brings us full circle to the core mission of this channel, which is helping parents navigate the questions that arrive long before we feel ready to answer them.
Because, let's face it, you are never truly ready for a child to start analyzing their own existence.
Oh, never. You're just trying to get them to brush their teeth.
Right. You can't prep for every existential curveball. But armed with an understanding of how a child's brain is developing at age 3, 6, or 9, you realize you don't need to be ready with flawless data.
You just have to be ready to provide context and connection.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up today's deep dive into this incredibly cinematic, thoughtful guide, I think the biggest takeaway for you listening right now is that the goal of answering a child's late-night question isn't historical accuracy.
Leave the encyclopedia on the shelf.
Right. Whether you are dealing with a toddler who simply needs to know they are loved, a 6-year-old demanding to know the historical origins of the universe before they were born, or a preteen trying to carve out an identity separate from your expectations, the goal is to meet them where their brain is at.
It's about taking that bedtime stall tactic and recognizing it for what it truly is.
Yeah.
A plea for connection.
It's an opportunity to hand them a psychological brick that helps them build their identity layer by layer in a space that feels completely safe.
And as we close, I want to leave you with a thought that flips this entire framework around.
Oh, I'm ready.
We just spent all this time analyzing how children grow to give their names meaning and how parents can guide that process. But think about your own name right now.
Okay.
If a name is an operating system that we take over, or a vessel that we fill with our actions over time, how has the meaning of your name changed to the people who love you, from when you were a 9-year-old child desperately trying to figure yourself out to the complex adult you are today?
Wow. That is a deeply provocative thought to sit with. How has the definition of you evolved in the minds of the people who say your name out loud?
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. We will leave you with that to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation, and we will see you on the next deep dive.